When the zombie virus outbreak reached its peak and we were running out of supplies, my 5-year-old daughter lay calmly on the couch and said, "Mommy, I'm going to die young." I decided to seek help from her biological father. I made the call, and he answered. That night, a zombie knocked on our door. This zombie was dressed in a suit and shoes, with delicate features and pale, ashy skin. His eyes, though beautiful, had a strange, eerie white glow. Unlike other zombies, he was clean, without a trace of blood, and dressed meticulously, maintaining his previous image of a refined gentleman. My daughter was no longer calm and shouted in panic, "Mom, did you call the zombie king?" The zombie virus had suddenly erupted globally. The whole world was in chaos. Zombies were everywhere, along with dead bodies and severed limbs. Before the outbreak, there had been numerous reports online about the resurgence of the coronavirus, and many schools had delayed their openings. I had also received a notice that the kindergarten would delay its start. Having experienced a major quarantine before, I had developed the habit of stockpiling food supplies in anticipation. After seeing the news online, I stockpiled a lot of food and essentials at home. My daughter and I stayed indoors unless absolutely necessary. Unexpectedly, this helped us avoid the initial deadly wave. We didn't die in the first batch, but we wouldn't last much longer, because I hadn't stockpiled that much. After 40 days, we were at the point of running out. My daughter, only 5 years old and named Cola, was initially terrified and would cry at the sight of the frenzied, mutated zombies. Now, she was no longer so afraid of the zombies. She would even crawl over to check out any noises outside. In the early days of the outbreak, the residents' chat group was abuzz. It soon reached over 999 plus messages. Now, there were hardly any living people left in that chat group. Many had given up, choosing to jump from their buildings rather than be bitten by zombies. My daughter ran over with her little short legs and asked me in her baby voice, "Mommy, I have good news and bad news. Which do you want to hear first?" At that moment, I felt there couldn't be any good news, but I didn't want to dampen her spirits. Pretending to think it over, I said, "Let's hear the bad news first." She seriously said, "The bad news is, we don't have much food left, and the good news is, we can avoid becoming zombies. We'll just starve as ghosts instead." She calmly reassured me, "Don't be scared, Mommy, it doesn't hurt if the zombies don't bite us. We haven't been mother and daughter for long in this life, but in the next life, I'll still be your daughter to make up for this life." My lips twitched. I felt a complex mix of emotions. My first thought was that this little one was being abstract. After all, she had been a little internet surfer, learning a lot of abstract literature from trending topics online and often applying it in real life to me. But her words also inexplicably made my heart ache. She was only 5 years old. How had she come to experience the end of the world already? My daughter lay on the couch, her face showing a serenity uncharacteristic for her age. She sighed softly, "Baby me, I'm going to die young." Pressing down the tightness in my chest, I comforted her gently, "Don't talk nonsense. Baby won't die young, Mommy will protect you. Someone will come to save us. They must." I believed it, because 10 days ago, I had received official information saying they would come to rescue us, that they wouldn't give up on any human. While waiting for rescue, I also considered venturing out to find food, but before that, I was preparing to seek help from that person, Kevin. Kevin comes from a privileged family background. He's also the biological father of my daughter. With all the bodyguards around him, he likely hasn't been infected. He probably has plenty of supplies too. However, our past conflicts were quite unpleasant. He must really hate me by now. I'm not sure if he would help me. After hesitating for a long time, I entered Kevin's phone number on my phone, but I didn't make the call. My daughter came over and asked me, "Mom, are you finally going to call my dad?" I turned around abruptly, puzzled. "How did you know this is your dad's number?" My daughter waved her little hand, defiant yet bold. "I got it out of you when you were drunk." Me, in disbelief, I said, "Cola, you tricked me into telling you when I was drunk." My daughter, acting all grown up, naturally replied, "So what? We're mother and daughter. What secrets can't I know?" I was stunned, my mind filled with a question mark, feeling somewhat irritated, but then I laughed. "I'm your mom, can't I have my privacy?" My daughter blinked her big eyes, staring straight at me. seriously retorting, "Are you angry? What do you have to be angry about? You lied to me saying my dad was gone, and when I found out he wasn't, I wasn't mad at you for deceiving me. I even played along with your lie seriously, and now you're mad at me. I think you're being unreasonable." My silence was deafening. Is it normal for a 5-year-old to be this smart and logical? Listening to her, it seemed like I was indeed in the wrong. I seriously considered her words. It seems I was indeed the first to deceive her. I was wrong. At that moment, my daughter, hands on her hips like an adult, asked me, "Do you realize your mistake?" I instinctively replied, "I know I was wrong." Then, my daughter generously waved her hand. "Okay, I forgive you generously. Now hurry up and call my dad." "All right, okay." Then, without thinking, I pressed the call button. The phone rang for about 10 seconds before it connected. My daughter immediately stretched out her hand and switched on the speakerphone. I didn't hear anyone speaking from the other end, which made me inexplicably nervous. "Hello, Kevin, I'm Isla." A very faint, came from the other side, then silence. I felt uneasy, even more nervous. After we broke up, I found out I was pregnant, with a girl. She's now 5 years old. And we're trapped. I suddenly choked up. Unable to continue. "Mom, let me talk to him." My daughter then took the phone. "Hello, hi, I'm your daughter. We're in trouble, hungry, need food. You understand." Kevin just, again. My daughter thought he understood and quickly gave him the name of our current location. "You better come quickly, otherwise, you'll only be able to collect our bodies." Kevin, After hanging up the phone, my daughter looked at me with sparkling eyes, excitedly saying, "Mom, we're saved." I pursed my lips, remaining silent. My emotions were complex. And it felt a bit strange. Throughout the call, Kevin had only uttered, 3 times. He wasn't particularly articulate before, but was he ever this inarticulate? Had he become more reclusive after we broke up? Moreover, he didn't question anything I said. Why, that night, I found out why. At 10 o'clock, amidst the silence, disordered sounds came from outside. Neither my daughter nor I had fallen asleep, and we immediately became alert. "Mom, is it Dad?" she asked. I stared straight at the closed door, shaking my head. "I don't know. If it were zombies, they would definitely be making roaring sounds, but there was no roaring from outside." I thought, it must be someone Kevin sent, so I said, "It must be someone your dad sent." Upon hearing this, my daughter immediately ran to the door. Just then, there was a loud knock. She climbed onto the stack of cabinets by the door and peered through the peephole. The next second, she turned pale, turned around, and yelled at me, "Mom, did you call the Zombie King? The Zombie King is here with a bunch of zombie minions, looking like they want to flatten our house." My heart skipped a beat. I rushed over and looked through the peephole. There was Kevin's familiar handsome face. He was dressed in a suit. His features refined, his skin pale and gray, his beautiful eyes eerily white, surrounded by 7 or 8 zombies. Unlike other zombies, his clothes were clean and well kept, maintaining his previous aristocratic demeanor. From the submissive posture of the other zombies, it was clear he was indeed the Zombie King. Suddenly, it seemed as if he sensed someone watching him, and a red gleam flashed through his pale eyes. He tilted his head, locking eyes with me through the peephole. My heart raced with fear, and I instinctively stepped back. The next second, there was another knock on the door. My daughter looked up at me and earnestly asked, "Mom, tell me the truth, did you dial the wrong number?" I wished I had dialed the wrong number, but the truth was, Kevin had indeed become the Zombie King. "He is indeed your dad, daughter." I was tense, quickly grabbed a kitchen knife, and watched the door cautiously. Unbeknownst to me, my daughter had lain back down on the couch, adopting a resigned demeanor. "Dad really, turning into the Zombie King and still taking calls. He was supposed to send us some food, but it seems he wants to make us his meal. Looks like I'm going to be reclaimed by my own dad." My temple throbbed, my expression stern and serious. "Stop talking nonsense, don't say such unlucky things. Go lock your room door, and remember, don't open it unless you hear me call." Tears suddenly filled my daughter's eyes as she stood up, looking at me with hope. "Mom," my eyes warmed, and tears followed. My heart was filled with sorrow, grief, reluctance, and despair. I knew all too well that I was no match for the zombies outside the door, but I decided to fight with all my might. The only thought in my mind was to stay alive. We had to survive until the rescue team arrived. Holding back my tears, I choked out, "Sweetie, trust me, Mommy will be okay, we'll be fine." My daughter wiped her tears, nodded, obediently went into her room, and shut the door. After hearing the click of the lock, I quickly pushed the sofa in front of the door. Then, the zombies outside started howling and going mad. Suppressing my fear, I peeked through the peephole. It turned out that Kevin's knocking had attracted the zombies from upstairs and the staircase. Several zombies charged towards Kevin and the ones around him, howling. In the next instant, Kevin's eyes emitted a strange red glow again. Even just looking through the peephole, I could feel the immense oppressive force emanating from Kevin's towering figure. The frenzied zombies, one moment clawing ferociously, the next meekly submitting. With a low growl, Kevin and the zombies that followed him each pulled out a firefighter's axe and started chopping at the recently subdued zombies. Axes rose and fell, zombies fell, decapitated. The scene was bloody and horrifying. My pupils dilated, and I covered my mouth to keep from making a sound. My hands trembled so much I could barely hold the kitchen knife steady. Kevin, even killing the zombies that submitted to him, it was terrifying, truly terrifying. For a moment, my mind froze, and I felt an unprecedented crisis. Despair and fear spread through my heart. It seemed that my daughter and I were doomed. Kevin slowly turned around, the eerie glow in his eyes signaling danger. He stopped knocking and pulled out his phone from his pocket. Dialing a number, just a wall apart, my phone rang, but I dared not answer. I quickly pressed end call. Kevin tilted his head, looking at the ended call, seemingly pondering something. After a while, he called again, too frightened. I fumbled and accidentally answered. "Open the door." Kevin's voice was incredibly hoarse. He was the king of zombies, conscious and intelligent. Otherwise, he wouldn't have found this place. "Kevin, please don't eat me and my daughter, okay? I know you can understand me. I'm begging you to spare us." I trembled as I spoke, tears uncontrollably streaming down. "No, eat, open, door, no, please go away. I'm begging you," I cried. You all are too terrifying. Just pretend I never called you, okay?" Kevin didn't speak again. A few seconds later, he hung up. I was shaking all over, leaning against the door to look outside. Kevin really had led the zombies away. An eerie silence fell outside the door. I breathed a sigh of relief, no longer able to stand. I collapsed to the floor. Thank goodness he really left. Suddenly, my phone buzzed again. Instinctively looking, I saw a text from Kevin. At the door, "Food." Only then did I notice that I hadn't seen something on the ground by the door before focusing on Kevin and the zombies. After seeing Kevin's text, I just noticed there were several backpacks lying on the ground by the door. After checking that there were no zombies outside, I quickly opened the door and pulled the backpacks inside. A quick look inside revealed cans of biscuits, instant noodles, milk powder, bread, sausage, and some rice and flour. Good news, this food will last my daughter and me for a while. Bad news, there's no water. City C is the closest to City A but is far less developed. After the disaster struck, this city only lasted a month before the internet, electricity, water, and gas systems all failed. Lately, we've been drinking bottled water I had bought. We used to live in an old neighborhood that experienced several long power and water outages during a previous lockdown. The impact of losing water and electricity was devastating. That's why I bought a generator back then. I didn't discard it when we moved. I brought it with us. It turns out to be quite useful now. As for water, we only have 2 liters of bottled water left. If we ration it, it might last 3 or 4 days. When my daughter saw the supplies Kevin had brought, she was thrilled. Did supplies fall from the sky? I blinked, my expression complex. "No, your zombie dad brought them." My daughter was shocked. "My zombie dad did good. It seems we misunderstood him. He really did come to deliver food." I hummed in agreement, but my daughter paused. "There's no water, it's too dry. With food but no water, we might end up dying of thirst." I was silent for a few seconds, then said, "Tomorrow I'll go out to find water. You stay home and be good." Actually, I was contemplating something, holding onto a glimmer of hope. I thought of seeking help from Kevin. When I saw Kevin at the door, still as a zombie king, I felt despair. But seeing these supplies, hope rose again. In a world filled with zombies, danger lurks everywhere. It's terrifying, desperate, survival has become the primary challenge. Kevin, now a zombie king with consciousness, can control other zombies and even kill them. He also brought us supplies. Perhaps I could continue to seek his help until official rescue arrives. We could use his help to find resources. While I was thinking, my daughter said, "It's too dangerous outside. Let my zombie dad help us get some water. He's the zombie king. Zombies don't bite him." Saying this, my daughter directly picked up her phone and called Kevin. The call was quickly answered. My daughter smiled sweetly, casually saying, "Hello, zombie dad, it's me, your daughter Cola." Kevin responded with a low grunt. Hearing his response, she continued, "Thanks for the food, dad, but it's a bit too dry. Thirsty, need water." "Get it, Kevin, dad, you'll bring us water, right?" "Kevin, my daughter smiled sweetly. "Thank you, Dad, you're so kind. Cola loves you." In the dark corridor, Kevin's tall figure stands at the top of the stairs, his eyes emitting a red, eerie glow, focusing on the dozen zombies in front of him. He was holding his phone, his face unclear, but the other zombies could feel their king's aura soften, and when the faint light from the phone went out, a strong signal of danger and intent to kill suddenly surged. Kevin stared at the dark screen for a few seconds, his mind filled with that sweet, milky voice. "Thank you, Dad, you're so kind. Cola loves you." He slipped his phone into his pocket. He looked at the zombies in the stairwell, tilting his head as if pondering whether to kill them. Slowly, he descended the stairs. The zombies immediately cleared a path for him, quietly following behind. Upon reaching the next floor, Kevin pushed open the door to the stairwell and started searching for zombies on that floor. Whenever he encountered a zombie, he took immediate control. He moved down to the next floor, and then the next. By the time he reached the ground floor, he had about 24 zombies trailing behind him. Kevin led the zombies out of the building and let out a low growl. "Roar, roar, clear the building, kill." The 8 zombies that had been following him roared back in response and quickly headed towards the surrounding buildings. Meanwhile, Kevin led about a dozen zombies to a clearing far from Building 12. He mysteriously produced a pair of black leather gloves and methodically put them on. Then, lifting the back of his suit jacket, he pulled out a firefighter's axe from his waist. Turning around, he swung the axe, cleanly decapitating a zombie, then the second, then the third. Soon, all the zombies that had just submitted to him were chopped down. Kevin stood amidst the bodies, the sharp firefighter's axe dripping blood. His face, pale and handsome, was splattered with blood, adding a dangerous allure. He walked up to an SUV, climbed onto the roof, and sat down with one leg bent. He lifted the firefighter's axe and brought it down. It struck the vehicle, producing a loud bang. Ordinary zombies have poor vision but are highly sensitive to sounds. The hungry zombies roaming nearby heard the noise and roared excitedly, converging on him. Subdued by the eerie light, they quieted down. Bang, bang. Kevin methodically, slowly, and forcefully continued to strike the vehicle, drawing more zombies. The banging went on for a long time, after hundreds of zombies had gathered around. He gripped the firefighter's axe and jumped off the vehicle. The hunting moment had begun. With agile movements, he swung his axe at the zombies. Like a hellish judge, bodies fell one after another, piling up on the ground. Soon, only he was left standing in the clearing. He stepped on the bodies, jumped back onto the vehicle, and repeated the process. Still, more zombies were lured by the sound, subdued, then killed. At last, dawn arrived. Kevin stood amidst a mountain of corpses and blood. His face blood-stained and dangerously handsome, captivating and terrifying. He held the blood-dripping firefighter's axe, staring intently at a zombie across from him. This was a mutant zombie with the potential to become the king of this area. Kevin's eyes narrowed slightly, his intent to kill evident. Inside its brain was a crystal nucleus. He was going to kill it. The mutant zombie sensed the danger and attacked first. Moments later, a small mound of bodies and 3 vehicles with their fuel tanks punctured were set ablaze. Flames soared into the sky. Kevin removed his gloves, playing with the small crystal nucleus in his hand, and kicked the body of the mutant zombie into the fire. Overnight, all the zombies wandering in the neighborhood had disappeared. Even the bodies outside the door were gone. The blood had been cleaned up thoroughly. If not for seeing the supplies Kevin had brought, I would have thought I was dreaming. The zombies in our neighborhood have all been dealt with by Kevin. That's a good thing. At least the tension I've been feeling for the past 40 days can finally ease a bit. It's unusually quiet outside, without the usual growling of zombies. My daughter soon noticed that the zombies were gone too. Mom, it's so strange. It seems like there are no zombies outside anymore. Could it be that my zombie dad cleared them all away? I nodded. Probably. Her eyes lit up as she praised. My zombie dad is really something. With him around, we should be able to survive. I nodded again. At noon, I heard some noise at the door. When I went to check, it was Kevin standing at the door with a large suitcase. He came by himself. I noticed he was wearing a different suit than the one from yesterday, but it was still clean and stunning. Some people are meticulous about their appearance and status even as humans. And surprisingly, even as a zombie, he remains meticulous. Impressively standing out, it's a level of comparison that could make other zombies envious. Kevin placed the suitcase at the door and stood a little distance away, then sent me a message. At the door, water. After sending the message, he didn't leave for a long time. His pale, gray eyes, no longer flickering eerily, just stared straight at the door. I think he probably wanted to see us, so I texted him, "Do you want to see us?" He replied instantly, "Yes," at the door, holding my daughter's hand. I slowly opened the door. I had imagined many scenarios of reuniting with Kevin, but never the one unfolding before my eyes. His clouded, gray eyes met mine across the space. I couldn't read the emotions in his eyes. But my heart trembled slightly, the emotions indescribable. My daughter, holding on to me, excitedly waved at Kevin, her eyes sparkling. She greeted him excitedly. "Daddy, I'm Cola, your cute baby. We're finally meeting. You look so handsome, even more than the stars on TV. You even look exactly like how I imagined my dad would be. No, even taller and more handsome." I was speechless. This little one sure knew how to flatter. Her flattery was endless. She even made the zombie dad across from us shy. His eyelashes trembling slightly as he looked down modestly. If his skin could blush, given Kevin's shy nature, he would probably be blushing warmly by now. Kevin's Adam's apple bobbed as he slowly uttered two words, "Don't, praise." His voice was still hoarse. My daughter wagged her finger from side to side, her expression animated. "I'm not praising you. I'm just stating the facts." Her flattery was masterful, elevating it to a whole new level. Kevin pointed at the suitcase, "Water." My daughter was extremely delighted and turned back into her flattering mode. "Wow, Dad, you're so cool. I declare you're the coolest and most amazing dad in the world. It's super cool to have a zombie king as a dad in this apocalypse. Dad, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you." I twitched the corner of my mouth. I couldn't stand it anymore. Kevin hung his head in embarrassment, not daring to look at his daughter as she showered him with praise. His daughter wanted to continue, but I couldn't help interrupting her. "Enough already. Your dad is shy by nature, and if you keep this up, he'll sink into the ground." Kevin nodded. In an instant, his daughter switched gears, adopting a mature demeanor. "All right, enough small talk. Let me ask you a few questions." Kevin tilted his head, looking at his daughter curiously, wondering what she would ask next. I was curious too. A second later, I heard her ask, "Are you married? Do you have any other children?" I was taken aback, looking at Kevin. A complex emotion stirred within me. Kevin also looked at me, shaking his head as his Adam's apple bobbed. "No, that's great. I mean, that means I'm your only child." His daughter's mind was quick, realizing what she had just said. She swiftly changed the subject. "Dad, I'm your child, right?" Kevin nodded again. "Yeah." Her eyes twinkling cleverly, she continued, "So, leaving aside why you two broke up, she's my mom, which roughly makes her your wife, right?" I was confused. What kind of rounding was that? How does that even work? After thinking for a few seconds, Kevin nodded again. "Yes, wife," she went on. "So we are your wife and child. You're the head of the household. so you should be protecting us, right? I was speechless. Case closed. This little one was brainwashing Kevin, and she was succeeding at it. After pulling the suitcase inside and closing the door again, she whispered in my ear, "Mom, that was a good move, wasn't it?" My eyelids twitched. "You sure know your math." She bashfully waved her hand. "Basic stuff, don't praise me, I get shy. Although I don't know why you two broke up, I certainly didn't betray you. In these critical times, we can let him be our protector while we wait for help. Don't worry, I won't let him hurt you or take advantage of you." I was speechless. This little one truly inherited her father's high intelligence. I felt outdone by both the older and younger generations. Afterward, Kevin started bringing supplies daily: household goods, medicine, food, and more. Every message he sent included "wife." Every time he came, his clothes were different. I began to wonder where he found so many different outfits, a new one every day. Could he ever run out? It didn't take long for our daughter to get chummy with Kevin, constantly praising him to the skies. Days passed one by one. We still hadn't seen any sign of a rescue team, nor had we received any more official rescue messages. Kevin's position moved closer to the door each time. This time, he stood right at the doorstep. There seemed to have been a transformation. His eyes were no longer gray-white but black-red, his speech was no longer slow and halting, and his voice was as pleasant as before. "Are you still afraid of me? If not, may I come in?" After hesitating for a few seconds, I finally decided to let him in. The door closed, and I turned around. Suddenly, he embraced me. A shiver ran through my heart, and my breath caught. In the next instant, he whispered in my ear, "I've missed you so much." His voice was extremely soft, barely audible, yet unmistakably clear. My mind went blank for a moment, and I could hear my own heartbeat, fast and chaotic. I didn't push him away. I let him hold me. After what seemed like seconds, our daughter couldn't help but speak up. "You've been hugging for a while now. That's enough. It's becoming impolite to continue." "Me, Kevin." Then Kevin slowly, reluctantly let go of me. Immediately, our daughter came up to lecture Kevin, assuming a very grown-up demeanor. "Dad, listen to me, you're a zombie now, and Mom is a human. It's okay for you to hug, but you must not kiss. Zombies have viruses in their mouths, and since you're the king of zombies, yours would be the king of viruses. You can't turn Mom into a zombie. She's the only mom I have." Me, well, the child's concern seems pretty valid. Kevin looked down at our daughter and said seriously, "A kiss is okay. The virus spreads through blood." 17. 7 days passed. That evening, Kevin quietly pushed open the door to the master bedroom and carefully stepped inside. He bent down and gently kissed my forehead. The cool touch reached deep into my heart along my veins. My heart began to beat faster. Then, he kissed our daughter's forehead too. He covered us with a blanket, carefully left, and closed the door. Minutes later, I slowly opened my eyes. Kevin had gone out. He had been doing this for the past few days. After my daughter and I fell asleep, he would kiss our foreheads and then take his keys and leave. By dawn, he would return in fresh clothes, but my keen sense of smell could detect a faint scent of blood on him, so I roughly knew what he was doing outside. The next day, when I opened the bedroom door, I saw Kevin lying on the living room sofa, resting. I held my breath, slowly approached, and crouched down to look at him. His pale, delicate face showed signs of fatigue, a few strands of hair scattered across his forehead, eyebrows slightly furrowed, and lashes long and dense. He was Kevin, the darling of City A, once the most cherished young master. Now, he had turned into this ghostly figure. He was too thin, heartbreakingly so, just skin and bones, as if a strong wind could blow him away. A bitter feeling surged in my heart, and my eyes grew warm. I reached out to brush his hair from his forehead and couldn't help but murmur softly, "Kevin, why have you become so thin? Have these years been unkind to you?" The next second, "No, they haven't been good at all." Kevin opened his eyes, his cold, beautiful hand grasped mine, and his hoarse voice carried a hint of grievance. My heart skipped a beat, and I felt a little panicked. "Isla, you haven't forgotten me, have you? From the beginning, it was all a lie, wasn't it?" I looked into his dark, reddish eyes. My mind went blank for a moment, and I was momentarily speechless. "Can't I forget him? How could I forget Kevin, who dazzled me with such intense affection? Kevin was the cherished young master of a prominent, wealthy family, and I was the child of a nanny. Since childhood, I lived with my mother at Kevin's family's home. The head of the family and his wife were unbiased towards me and even allowed Kevin and me to play together. They sponsored my education at the same school as Kevin. We were childhood friends. For over a decade, the family head and his wife treated me very well. Many people considered me almost like their own daughter. As adolescence hit, I realized I had fallen for Kevin. Kevin was too dazzling, too outstanding. It was hard not to like him. Fortunately, he liked me too. We started a secret romance, hidden from everyone. Everyone knew we had grown up together and were close, but never suspected our romantic involvement, until Kevin's 20th birthday party, where someone with ulterior motives drugged him, leading us to become intimate. After waking up, the family head and his wife dismissed my mother and asked us to leave Kevin's family. Kevin disagreed and revealed our relationship. The family head and his wife were furious. They not only kicked out my mother and me but also forced me to break up with Kevin and to withdraw from school to stay away from him. They could accept his friend being the nanny's child, but they could never accept him being in love with the nanny's child. We didn't compromise. Kevin left his family and was cut off financially. I didn't listen to my mother and firmly chose Kevin. We promised each other to stay together forever. Later, I was the first to break that promise. I wasn't my mother's biological child. She found her own child, who was suffering from a heart condition and needed surgery. She cried and knelt down begging me to leave Kevin and move out of City A. If I agreed, Kevin's family would help her. I couldn't refuse the person who had raised me for over a decade, so I agreed. I acted for a few days, then told Kevin I didn't love him anymore and had fallen for someone else. Moreover, I was pregnant with that person's child. Kevin didn't believe it, so I had someone else play along. He believed it then. We broke up. It was only after leaving City A that I discovered I was indeed pregnant. As my thoughts returned, I looked at Kevin. He sat on the sofa, looking down at me with hopeful eyes, his dark, reddish pupils shimmering with anticipation and a hint of fear. I swallowed, hearing my own voice. Yes, Kevin, I still can't forget you. All that before, it was all to deceive you. Before my words even settled, he suddenly kissed me. The cold touch made me catch my breath. My heart trembled again. In this moment, a subtle chemical reaction occurred between Kevin and Isla, their feelings of love colliding once again. We only parted when we were almost out of breath. Turning around, I saw my daughter standing at the door, her hands covering her eyes, though her fingers were spread wide apart. Her eyes curved into little crescents, chubby-cheeked and unflustered. She said, "Don't worry, I didn't see anything inappropriate." Me, "I think you saw quite a bit." Kevin's eyelids fluttered slightly as he slowly said, "Cola, you're already a mature kid. Next time remember not to see or listen to anything inappropriate." After a moment of thought, my daughter obediently clasped her hands and replied, "Okay, Daddy, I'll remember. This was rude of me. I apologize to both of you. Do you want me to leave so you two can continue?" Me, "That won't be necessary." The mobile signal was gone, indicating that the communication base station in City C was down. I had a sinking feeling that we wouldn't be able to wait for a rescue team. Moreover, since Kevin is a zombie, even if the rescue team arrived, he probably wouldn't be able to enter the safe base with us. Thinking about this, my feelings became complicated. Nighttime, on the dilapidated and messy streets, stiff-limbed zombies wandered in search of food. The air was filled with the stench of decay. Kevin walked among the horde of zombies, completely out of place with his clean, neatly dressed appearance, exuding elegance and nobility as if he was a deity who had mistakenly entered this zombie world. His eyes gleamed with a sinister red light. Wearing leather gloves, he held a blood-stained fire axe. The dangerous aura emanating from him made all other zombies keep their distance. The Overlord was out hunting again. These days, he had almost wiped out all the mutant zombies in the city area. Truly a fearsome zombie king. Kevin didn't know how long he had walked until he entered another zombie king's territory. This zombie king sensed the danger immediately and commanded its zombies to attack Kevin. Kevin moved his neck, eyeing the zombies that were snarling and clawing their way towards him. Swinging his axe like chopping watermelons, he decapitated a small zombie with each strike. Soon, A pile of bodies lay before him. Seeing this, the zombie king roared in anger. Summoning several agile zombies that seemed to have some intelligence, kill him, they seemed to hiss. The agile zombies quickly surrounded Kevin, launching their attack. Kevin's eyes narrowed, filled with murderous intent. He timed his strike perfectly, cleaving the zombie attacking him head-on, then swiftly leaped onto a nearby large rock. The zombies closed in again, continuing their onslaught. As zombies were cut down, others took their place, one after another. While Kevin was focused on slaughtering zombies, the zombie king made its move, pouncing like lightning and biting into his shoulder. Kevin's form faltered, and he fell into the horde of zombies. Dawn broke. Kevin lay motionless among a heap of corpses. His body was covered in wounds, his face and body stained with fresh blood. The sharp fire axe was still clutched in his hand. Was he dead? Not at all. He had killed the zombie king and consumed its crystal core, causing his body to mutate once again. His wounds began to heal bit by bit. After some time, Kevin opened his eyes. He staggered to his feet from the pile of corpses, his eyes, now a dangerous blend of black and red, gleaming ominously. He finally had the power to control and summon all mutant creatures. Kevin looked down at the pile of bodies, several bodies, clad in matching dark blue uniforms marked with City Rescue Team, lay decomposing. It appeared they had been dead and unattended for quite some time, indicating that the official rescue team had indeed arrived, only to meet their demise here. Half an hour later, Kevin staggered into a large mall and entered a high-end boutique known for its handmade luxury goods, where he helped himself to several new outfits at no cost. Afterward, he made his way to a deserted hotel, used the water from the room's heater for a bath, and changed into his new clothes. Suddenly, he sensed an unusual danger and looked towards the south. The night after Kevin left, I was overcome with a sense of unease. My sleep was restless, frequently interrupted by nightmares. In those dreams, I saw Kevin fighting a horde of zombies to protect me and our daughter, covered in wounds, ultimately dying amidst a pile of corpses. Waking up in a cold sweat, I experienced this nightmare repeatedly throughout the night. By dawn, I was too scared to sleep and sat in the living room waiting for Kevin, the ominous feeling within me growing stronger. Despite the daylight, Kevin had not returned, and the visions from my nightmares haunted me constantly. Panic set in as I feared the nightmares had become reality and that Kevin might never return. My daughter, noticing how fixated I was on the door, hugged me and tried to reassure me. "Mom, don't worry, Dad will come back safe." That was when I realized how severely I was trembling. I nodded, my voice hoarse. "Yes, he must come back." My daughter sat quietly beside me as we both waited for Kevin. After what seemed like an eternity, there was a noise outside. My heart raced, every nerve stretched to its limit. Click, the sound of the door lock turning. The next second, the door opened. It was Kevin. Without thinking, I rushed to embrace him, my voice trembling and choked. "Kevin." Kevin hugged me back gently, soothingly. "Don't be afraid, I've come back safe." I murmured an acknowledgement, noting the unusually strong smell of blood on him, likely from a fierce encounter with zombies. Thankfully, he was unharmed and safe. Kevin revealed that he had seen the bodies of the official rescue team. City was about to face a massive wave of zombies. We needed to leave immediately. Half an hour later, Kevin carried our daughter, who wore an eye mask and earplugs, as we descended the stairs. Behind us, 8 zombies carried our luggage. At the ground floor, I saw a large truck filled with around 100 people of all ages, all staring intently at me. I was shocked and instinctively looked at Kevin. He explained, "They are survivors from City. I will take them to a safe base." I nodded. "Okay, then." We set off. Kevin drove, his eyes emitting a strange red glow, and zombies along the road moved aside to let us pass. My daughter and I sat behind him, with the 8 zombies on the roof of the truck. We drove out of City, heading east towards a city. Along the way, we encountered a small wave of zombies. A group of people, their uniforms marked City Rescue Team, were trapped among them. "Kevin, that's the official rescue team," I pointed out. Kevin immediately controlled the zombies to halt their attack. The rescue team, upon seeing us, did not approach immediately but instead watched us warily with their guns at the ready. "Are you human?" they asked, looking at Kevin. Kevin said, "Let me negotiate with them." Kevin nodded. "Okay." Together with the rescue team, we went to the human survivors' safe base. In front of the massive gate, there were two banners. One read, "Humanity will never bow to the apocalypse, the nation will never abandon any human being." The other stated, "We will eventually overcome the apocalypse and return to our happy homes." A familiar loudspeaker announcement played at the entrance. "Welcome to the human survivors base. Visitors, please register and cooperate with the inspection. Those with injuries and zombies who retain clear human consciousness, please use the left passage." It felt like stepping into a different era, and soon everyone was filled with excitement. "We've survived. We've survived." One by one, they lined up voluntarily to register and undergo the checks. As for Kevin and his zombie subordinates, they directly took a special passage, because Kevin saved all the survivors of City C and had the ability to control and summon zombies. He was specially authorized by the leadership to form a Special Rescue Combat Squad. It was the only rescue team composed of zombies. Later, they became a legendary squad. Their rescue missions never failed. 2 years later, humanity eradicated all zombies and began to rebuild their homeland. The official Biological Research Institute developed a zombie serum. Those zombies who maintained human consciousness were successfully turned back into humans after being injected with the serum. The success rate was 91%. The only failures were Kevin and his 8 zombie subordinates. Because they had consumed zombie nuclei, they had undergone mutations, therefore, the Biological Research Institute developed a special serum specifically for them. Eventually, they all returned to normal. People carried bags, scattering anti-zombie virus pellets on the ground like spreading fertilizer. Then, artificial rain was induced. Finally, the world was reborn anew.